Hello, everyone. Welcome to MagnaWave Wellness TV. We're glad you've joined us today. We've got another exciting program for you. It's a great place to have your questions answered about various protocols, indications, how you might be working to develop a business, different ideas that are available to you. So we're looking forward to visiting today and having a good time. My guests today are Jody Murray and Shannon Pulafrone. They practice in Texas and in Phoenix, Arizona. Both of the girls grew up with horses, and their family began showing Arabians in the early 80s. Shannon took over the training business, this is amazing, when she was 16 years old. They both showed as youth exhibitors, but Jody had to quit for about 10 years due to some back issues. But after she had some surgery and got recovered and was ready to go in her early 20s, they decided to revamp the business and work together. They had a very successful training business and enjoyable business for about 16 years. I guess as things change and families change, they were deciding to close down the business and look for new opportunities, and they looked for different ways to stay involved with the horses that they loved and they enjoyed being around them. They needed a way to support the habit, oh boy, here we go, that they loved. And by this time, their children were very immersed in the equine, in horses, and their activities. So from here, I'm going to ask them to kind of start telling us about what they did, how they found their next area of endeavor, and basically farmed their therapy business. Hello, ladies. Thank you for joining me, and kind of take it away. Where'd you go from that point as you were looking?
Well, we had decided to go ahead and close down the training business. We were looking to kind of change things around a little bit. That's a great job, but it's a hard job. So our kids are getting a little older, and we want to spend more time with them. So as we looked around, we both wanted to stay in the horses, and the therapies, the magnetic therapies and things like that are getting more popular, obviously, and more useful, so we just thought we would look into what we could use. We had a client that had used a P3 machine on our training horses, and we actually had some results from it, but we had so many horses that didn't like it that we were a little bit concerned about investing a great deal of money. So at one of the shows that we had been at, we had rented a MagnaWave, and really kind of liked the results on it. And so we just did a little more investigating. We got to talking to Pat and the different company, loved the website, loved the interaction, loved the education, and honestly we didn't find that with the other modalities. So we were much more interested in looking into that. So we went ahead and bought one to just kind of see what we could do with it. And I literally went to the Arabian Nationals in October that year and basically told all our friends that they had to let us try it because that's what we were doing. And so they did, and kind of, I think, just to humor us because, you know, that's what they do because they're nice guys. So they found out very quickly, though, that the results are tremendous. And so it really kind of grew quickly. Also at home, we were both still at Colorado, and we were starting to kind of branch out and look and see who we could get going. Have a very good friend that runs the Colorado Horse Park, so we were able to spend quite a bit of time there. Basically just kind of contacted everybody we knew, which after nearly 30 years in the training business, we knew a lot of people, so that was really helpful. So we kind of went forward from there, and then it was about 6 or 8 months we bought a second machine, and both of us have been full-time since. Our dad has one as well. He does not do full-time, he does kind of part-time, but he handles a lot of our Colorado business that's left, does quite a few people. My family moved to Arizona almost 3 years ago, and Jody and her husband moved to Texas almost 2 years ago. So we maintain LTC Magna Wave services as a business, but we work independently. We like to laugh and say we work separately together, or together separately.
That's a good one. Together separately. I like that. Jody, can you add something to this for us?
Well, you know, our biggest reason for moving in, for myself to move to Texas and for Shannon to move to Arizona, was so that we could be able to expand our business. We had found with most of our customers that we had were in the larger areas, and so we were able to educate them as to how the monthly, weekly treatments actually cut down on their vet bills. So it was a great move for all of us to go to the different states and expand. Because when we do go to the U.S. Nationals, we both bring in a very large clientele to one area.
That's very interesting. And you did say one thing, Jody, that I think it would be good for us to maybe talk about a little bit, and that is when you first started, were you using it as a pre-event tool at that point, or were you using it post-event, or how did you develop that aspect into your business to move from, because in the beginning that's what everything was for us. It was all pre-event, make my horse better. But as you started, where did you find yourself in that sequence? Because you'd had 16 years, previous years as trainers. When I started, I didn't have any experience as a horse trainer. I'd been around horses, certainly, and I sold therapy equipment, but I had to find a way to work in. How did you approach that as you began your business?
Well, what we did is we went into the Colorado Horse Park, and we were allowed to do a presentation in the trainers meeting. And we were able to explain to them what the MagnaWave did and how it would benefit, but they were still skeptical. And as we know, trainers have their bodies are beaten up quite a bit. And so a couple of them allowed us to actually work on them. And as soon as they felt the wonderful effects to it, was how we were able to immediately move into the barns and get the horses. So as we moved along, we started out working on horses pretty much on a weekly basis and not before the horse shows at that aspect. And as time went on, then before all of the big events that were happening, they would have lists of horses for us to do, and as they continued to find out the benefits of not only the weekly but at the post events of stuff, that's how we expanded to horse shows and in barns.
So you actually started from the standpoint of treating them at their farms, at the barns, before the shows. So you were just making them feel better, and they were noticing that, and then you came to the point of actually attending the shows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We've had the advantage a little bit that as trainers, understanding that their physicality on a regular basis, working consistently through the months and getting prepared is important, so that we are preventing injury and increasing their trainability to where their performance is, they don't have so many peaks and valleys with their performance levels. So that has been an interesting aspect with us, to talk basically trainer to trainer, to have an understanding of what they are trying to accomplish and how to maintain a high level. Probably the majority of our business is a higher level trainers. We do a lot of, individuals or whatever, but we have been fortunate to be able to work with some really high level trainers, and their understanding of keeping their horses in a consistent maintenance position has been really beneficial. They find fewer injuries. Like I said, their competitiveness, their trainability is a more consistent level. They don't see so many ups and downs, and so the value of their overall health consistently over a 12-month period has been really increased, and they really see the value of that. And then to continue in through the horse shows, the people that we do work consistently and then follow to the horse shows love that. The farms that we do around the country that we only see at the large horse shows still absolutely make it a priority at the horse shows, so that they see that consistency at least from big show to big show. So it's for us, it's really been a fun thing to help these trainers build into their daily, weekly, monthly programs, so that their horses are more consistent with fewer injuries and better health.
So you had yourself in a position, and this is very interesting because it's from a standpoint of how people look at it differently, but you put yourself in a position to talk with the trainers from the very beginning about the value of the consistent treatments. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to re-educate them in that position. And it's kind of interesting to me because in the beginning, so often it seemed like when we would talk about consistency of treatments, so many people looked at it as you're just trying to get me to do something weekly with my horse, but you approached it from the standpoint of having done it for so long that they understood and they believed exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, you know, some of them are still, even now, some of them are a little bit skeptical as to what it'll do, but we kind of find it funny. We have one trainer from California in particular he's just Mr. Skeptic. He doesn't really get into much of anything, but I'm always on the list to work on the horses at the horse shows. He doesn't necessarily even care to understand why it works, but his horses feel really good and the consistent, you know, they just train better and they feel better. So not everyone really understood what the therapy was, but they were willing to give it a shot. And the thing with the Magna Wave is that it's not any sort of vague, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. You feel the difference right now. And so, you know, that really has helped the bottom line because, you know, people are spending a great deal of money on their horses anyway, and if a trainer recommends that you do something, there needs to be a reason for it and a result from it. So just by way of the fact that these men and women are using it on a consistent level because they feel and see and it continues to have a good positive benefit, whether they really understand what it's doing or not, their horses are working better and their clients obviously are happier because the horses are accomplishing what they're wanting to do. It's really made a big difference in their abilities, their consistency, their success.
And to add to that, with working with the trainers, we also work very closely with the veterinarians. So they are able to, the vet, if they have an injury, will fix the obvious, but they will have us go through that horse and find the cause of that injury and help speed that healing up. So we're able to not only work with the trainers, we work very closely with their veterinarians also.
That's an excellent aspect. When you're doing this and you're working for these upper level trainers, and I do have a question I want to get to in just 1 second, do you treat typically the whole horse, or do they say to you, I've got a horse that's has some issues in the back, will you treat the back, or do you still work to do the whole horse, or on occasion the whole horse?
We always work the whole horse. Unless it's a specific, like a suspensory injury or something like that, where we have only one spot. But even on that, we will at least every other time do the entire horse, because you have to be able to find the connections and see where the referrals are so that you can heal the whole injury, not just the specific area.
Well, excellent. That's true, because majority of the time, I guess I'm not going to say majority, my opinion is majority of the time, if we have an injury, it doesn't necessarily stem from that spot, especially our leg injuries on these performance horses in particular, any kind of performance horses. You know, they're usually, you can follow the referral from an injury to where it actually came from. They were unbalanced, they were uncomfortable, working incorrectly, something was wrong in their body further up, and over a period of time, many times the legs are what pay the price later because they're the weakest point of that horse. So again, I guess it goes back to the trainer thing. That whole horse is a unit, and they're biomechanical creatures, and everything they do is a mechanical function. So we feel that it's important to follow the whole horse, figure out where it came from, treat the obvious injury, but a lot of times the injury is actually a secondary issue, and so if we can chase it back and figure out where it's coming from, we can prevent it from happening again, or help prevent it from happening again. And a lot of times we can head them off before it ever happens.
Absolutely, and thank you. Great response. We do have a question from Jessica. She says she's currently in a 40-horse barn where the MagnaWave is used regularly, both as a pre-race prep, so it must be thoroughbreds, and as a therapeutic tool for injuries and soreness. You do not have a certified tech on premises, so she'd like to know, get some general guidelines for the strength to which to adjust the current for various purposes, from diagnosis, which we don't actually diagnose, but we can look for areas of sensitivity, to pre-race to post-race recovery. Ladies?
My basic rule of thumb with working on any animal is to start at a medium to low intensity and make sure it is that horse's comfort level. And based on their comfort level and how much sensitivity that I see, then I will go raise the level or lower the level. But for me, I find the absolute best result is to never go higher than their comfort level. Always watch their signs and how they are reacting, because you're going to get your best results if they are relaxed and continuing to take big breaths and not tense. If they tense up for any reason, then you get to start over, in my opinion.
So how do you tell, from your side of the house, where the not sensitivity is, but how do you tell they're comfortable? Do you use their ears, their eyes? How do you gauge that?
I gauge by their breathing, their eyes, their ears. If when you reach for them, they pull their heads up and get real tense, or they are moving away from me, then I know we need to go lower, at least until they understand what it is and are comfortable with it. As soon as you hit their comfort level, you will start to see them licking and chewing. A lot of them will yawn, and they will get to where they lean into you. You don't ever want them moving away from you. And I mean that stepping away, not moving forward and back, because a lot of these guys will try to push you to the spot that is hurting them. So if they're moving forward and back, I will follow where their body is until everything relaxes, and then you can find some of the specific areas.
I agree with that. I think a lot of times people think that just because horses are big, that they don't feel, that they're not very sensitive. And we've got to remember the sensitivity levels of a horse. They can feel a fly on the end of a hair, so I'm pretty sure they're going to feel a MagnaWave. And so if they are in pain, and especially if it's been a long-term pain, they're going to be hypersensitive to it, and they're going to be very defensive. Their only response is fight or flight. They never lie. A horse does not lie. They can't make things up, and they don't lie about what's going on. So if we feel that they are uncomfortable, or they're telling us that they're uncomfortable, we see lameness, we see pain, we see bad behavior, we need to be sensitive to how painful they are. So, you know, when the MagnaWave is moving, we all know that when it finds a sensitive level, it kind of grabs a hold and makes it work a little harder. We see the muscles move a little harder. Well, you know, if that horse is reacting quickly to the MagnaWave just in a physical sense, and you can see that that MagnaWave is moving, and he's kind of looking at you as though you're crazy, you might want to listen to him. Turn it down to where he's comfortable, and you're getting a more calm response to the muscles. The other thing, if you have not had a lot of time working with the MagnaWave and you're not sure what it feels like, use it on yourself and find out what it feels like. When you have nerve pain, if you have muscle pain, you have different spots, find out what those horses are feeling. They're feeling the same thing we are, so put it on your shoulder, put it on your hip, put it on your knee, find out what it is that they're feeling, and then you can have a little better understanding of what they're trying to tell you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Jessica, just so we're totally clear with this, when you first approach the horses, which obviously at the barn they are using the device and they're having some success certainly, but what you want to do is put it on a setting that what I try to do is put it on a low enough setting that I don't naturally get movement. You can turn the machine to where you get movement immediately, and basically you're doing a mechanical massage of the horse. But what you want to do is put it on a setting that as you move the wand across the horse, you're not necessarily getting movement, but as you move around, you will get areas of movement, and then that will show you at that point where areas of sensitivity are. But to treat it at a very comfortable setting, like they just pointed out, is very good and very beneficial. It's designed to be turned up high when you need it for a hoof or a knee or something like that, but it doesn't have to be high all the time. More is not always the best, but more is available if you need it. So anything to add there, ladies?
No.
Okay, well, great. I just wanted to kind of go there. Folks, if you have any questions with regard to indications, or as Jessica was asking, and Jessica, I hope that answered your question. If you want to take it a little deeper and you have a part of that again, please just type in the chat box. And ladies and gentlemen, type in the chat box if you have a question, and we'll be happy to approach it. Can you tell me, Shannon and Jody, probably what is the most difficult indication you've had to deal with in your years of practice?
You know, I think sometimes it's interesting that people say the horse is lame and we don't know why. Or, you know, he's gotten poorly behaved and we don't know why. Or sometimes even the vets will give us a call and say, okay, we have gone over this horse and we can't find it. It's not obvious. What do you think? So really, I guess for me, when I look back at it, I want to, one, I find out what its job is. And if you have some sort of an understanding of how that horse is going to accomplish that job, say it's a Arabian Western Pleasure horse, you have a basic idea of how that horse will frame up and perform, then you have an idea of maybe what to look for. Is it having trouble with a lead? Is it spooking? Is it this or that or the other thing? And really, it's a little bit of kind of just solving the puzzle. Work through that horse, find out where it hurts, maybe watch it move, see if you can figure out where the mechanical end of it is, talk to the vets, things like that. And really just sometimes it's just a little bit of an intuition. It's kind of looking to see what the reactions are, what the bad problems are, and then maybe sorting out where it is. A lot of times we do find that it can be an underlying issue. Ulcers are a huge deal. Understanding, maybe looking for the ulcer points will give us an idea, or behavior issue. If we're getting a lot of repeated pain for no particular, not real specific pain, I guess, where a horse is just kind of overall anxious. Those kind of things are really interesting to me, to where if we can sort out where the basic problem starts, then we can help that horse heal basically from the inside out.
So if you're dealing with ulcers, how do you approach the protocol for treating ulcers?
Well, I always, of course, look for the acupressure points. Some of it is behavior. Sometimes it's just horses being really anxious. They lose weight, things like that. But not always. Some of these horses are so well cared for that they're fat and they're shiny, and they don't necessarily have the obvious that they're skinny or they're crazy or acting crazy, or things like that. They're just not right. And so the really interesting thing with it is that the ulcer points between the front legs on either side of the girth, jaws, those kind of things, a lot of times they'll be really reactive, and so we'll target that. But that goes a little bit along hand in hand in discussing with their caretakers, how they act, how they behave, really working on those acupressure points and such. But, if we have a specifically, say, an ulcer issue, that also needs to be, obviously with the Magna Wave, we can stimulate those points and help relieve some of the anxiety with them, but that also has to be discussed and possibly treated from an internal standpoint. But those are all things that go hand in hand with the horse's overall health. If we have sometimes to just believe them that there's a problem, and we need to look a little further into what it is. The Magna Wave, of course, helps us to pinpoint it, and it helps us to treat it because we're working specifically on those points, the acupressure points, the pain response, the inflammation, helps the intestines to stimulate, normalized. So we see a definite result from there. But you know, that's one of the things that we really encourage with the ongoing consistent treatments, so that we're seeing where these horses are making the changes, improvements or non-improvements, so where it can be a kind of a group effort to make them all as healthy as possible.
So when you treat a horse with an ulcerative condition, you'll treat the acupuncture points that are associated with the ulcers. You'll also then treat the overall body to get good blood oxygenation and flow through the whole body, and then you'll also perhaps work around the intestinal and the stomach area just to for a little regeneration and rejuvenation in those areas. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes. I have one horse in particular that I work on a regular basis that has ulcers. He's been scoped, diagnosed with it. He's on the medication for it. And before he goes to compete, we always go work between his legs on that belly, on the belly points, across the belly, and then on the other acupuncture points before he goes to compete. And between the Magna Wave and the other medications for that, he has started competing quite competitively again at the national level.
Great, and that's an excellent description of how you treat the belly and the overall body of the horse. How about when you get into specific leg injuries, maybe tendons, knee injuries, that type of thing? What kind of protocol do you use? I know we have protocols in the training portal, but everybody kind of finds, oh, I like to do it this way, or we have real good success doing it this way. How do you approach the tendons, for example, if you have some tendon issues or suspensory?
I like to, depending on the injury, but mainly if we've got a suspensory, I have found that if I work, first set their foot, that leg on the Zoom paddle for 3 to 5 minutes, and then I work with the wand and a butterfly up the leg and at the actual injury point for another about 2 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes on that. And then we finish up the shoulder and shoulders and neck. And that protocol seems to clear the congestion, help that heal faster. And then I like to do those at least twice a week. Here in Texas, everything is an hour away. So, you know, sometimes I can only get them once a week, but honestly, if you can do them about 3 times a week, you're going to speed that healing up by, you know, half to 2/3 of the time.
Excellent. So the idea is you'll use the paddle and box on the foot to come up from the bottom of the foot to begin to relieve congestion and move things upward, and then you go up the leg and work the area of the soreness or the suspensory issue, and then take it further up the leg, certainly to the shoulder and overall body area for good blood flow. Is that pretty much how you do it? And your time seems to be about 12 minutes?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Depending, I think, on the, you know, when you feel the injury, anytime that you have activity in an injured area, you feel the ticking or the pulsing or the movement. It's really a fascinating thing to feel as it starts to improve and the blood flow increases. That will calm down. So as the healing is kicking in there and that leg is getting better, there'll be less and less reaction from it. So that's something to feel for. Consistency, of course, is the key, depending on finances and distance and such like that, how many times we can get it done. We found, I don't know when I found those. Early on, we went looking for some charts, basically guidelines to have. We each have a book with, you know, charts and sketches, you know, pictures and things like that. And we have found it to be really, really helpful to have one of those, to where we can have a pretty good understanding of where tendons, ligaments, muscles, basically where they're all connecting and flowing into each other, and how those referrals will play off of each other so that we're getting a complete treatment. So it's not just let's just thump away on the injury, which of course will do great things, but by following up to where those connections might be and to chase down the mechanical part of the horse, how all those connect, we can actually get a much more thorough result. And as much as anything, we really don't want those horses to hurt themselves again. A lot of times we hear about how the horse was laid up and it's healed up and everything's fine, and we put him back to work, and 3 or 4 months later, boom, he blew it again. Well, that generally tends to be because whatever caused it in the first place never got handled. So their muscles were either too tight or atrophied from stall rest, or there was connection further up in the body. The wither, shoulder, low neck area is absolutely key to those front leg injuries. And then the same thing in the back, the hindquarters, the triangle of the hip up through the pelvis and the SI and the stifle, all that, and that connection in the low back will directly affect the hind leg function and the effects or the possible effects that you can have on suspensories and other ligaments and tendons in both legs.
Okay, we have another, Jessica said that her question was answered when we approached it earlier, but then she has another one, and it kind of ties in with where we're discussing right now. She asks, when treating specific areas of injury in horses' leg, namely a tendon or ligament issues, you obviously don't see the movement in the tissue, which we've talked about as far as the strength of the machine. If a horse seems comfortable, is stronger better where these tissues are concerned?
On a suspensory, stronger, yes, but not full strength. You want to still do. My feeling is I like the tick that I hear the 1, 2, 3, that I can do that count, and but that still goes based on their comfort.
And that is the case. Certainly, quite often, Jessica, as Jody just pointed out, not always the highest. Now, certainly when we're treating an abscess or we're getting into some areas or we want to get something in the knee that's just a slight inflammation issue, if you can go higher and they're comfortable, then it's okay to go higher. But as she's pointing out, which we discussed earlier, a good moderate setting, it's very difficult to go wrong with a good moderate setting for a good quick result. Jessica also asked, is there such thing as treating too often? How do you feel about that?
I don't really think you can treat too often, but I don't know that it's necessary to treat constantly. Jody and I laughed that you were going to leave it where it is and let it cook for a while, because the body gets to go and the blood flow goes, we open all that up, the inflammation starts to come down, and the body takes over for a while. And we do feel like there's a certain amount of ongoing result from a treatment. So you can't necessarily do it too much because it's magnetic, but it's not really necessary. I guess each horse, depending on how badly they're feeling, the lamer the horse, probably the more short treatments the possible are better, because you can continually to eliminate pain, make them feel better, and keep going. As you're getting the healing going, if the horse is not tremendously painful, again, consistency is your best. I don't really feel like you need to. I guess it depends. If we're at a horse show and we have to get something right quickly, every day is vital. Sometimes even maybe 5 minutes twice a day. If it's at home and you've got a little more time to let it heal, 2 to 3 times a week is really going to get the job done for you.
And the other thing there is, Jessica, the horse will tell you. And as Shannon just pointed out, sometimes you'll do several treatments in a row to get going, and then you can get yourself in a situation that it might only take once a week for this horse, twice a week for another horse, or just at shows for another horse. So they'll tell you where their comfort levels are, and they'll tell you when they need it. They'll start backing up, is what I call it. They'll start showing the indication coming back again. So again, and they're correct. You don't have to do it every day. When we started, when people were seeing these kind of results, they wanted it done every day. Treat it every day at the show. Treat every horse every day at the show. Well, after a while, they realized this horse only needs it once a week. This horse needs it twice a week, or this horse needs it in this manner. So let the horse tell you what they need, because they will. You can see it when you treat them, where they are in their area of rejuvenation and staying power. And see, she has another question. Let's see, where is it? Well, we pretty much answered the questions, but she did point out she knows a certain Kentucky Derby hopeful who travels with his own personal Magna Wave. That's pretty exciting.
That's a lucky guy.
That's right, and there are some of those. We know that's the case, and we're looking forward to having a bunch of horses in this year's Derby again. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and we'd be happy to get to them. They've got excellent answers for us today. I'm really enjoying the conversation to get it from their perspective, being in the field as active practitioners now for, gosh, 5 years probably. It just moving right along from that perspective. Tell me a little bit, Jody and Shannon, about how perhaps you approach the sacrum and with regard to the back of the horse.
You know, as you're working, depending on whether you start from the back or the front of the horse, because I will switch up my treatment so that we aren't getting muscle memory where I always start at the front and work back. But as you're coming down the back, you're going to see where your referral will go into the SI joint, or if it runs further down the sacrum towards the tail area or into the hip joint. So I like to go across, work basically a V down the hip and across, and then we'll do a butterfly and put it right on top of the actual SI joint at the horse's comfort level. And if you're seeing a lot of movement in there, you will see almost an instant relief from them.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah. I do a similar thing. I think we all have a basic similar technique, but each of us, of course, has a little different feel or things that we've found. I use my big coil all the time, open it, close it, double, so that you're being able to pinpoint small points or open, or, so you're a lot of it is just really watching to see how the body is reacting, where it's referring to. Wherever there's a pain or an irregularity of any sort, that Magna Wave is going to find it. And so we want to have your eyes open to see where it's going. And then, of course, that will be basically our starting point for that problem area. And then watch the referral out from it or down from it. See if it goes down the leg. Does it go forward? Does it, wherever it goes. And you really want to chase it down and find all those points that are talking to each other and causing the problem, and release each one. And it will allow us to find out what is, more of a referral or a secondary issue, and where the deep part, where the source of our injury or our pain is coming from. And then we're able to target that, basically, and then from that target area we can make sure that everything that could be affected by it is hopefully not being affected by it.
And once again, with that also is, while you're working across the sacrum, you want to make sure you get all the way, go all the way to the tail, and then work forward and backwards, because if that sacrum is sore or tight or very sensitive, that is part of where your back issues are going to come from, and it's also part of having a pole locked up. So making sure that, once again, making sure you work the whole horse is very important.
Thank you very much. I want to kind of move, if we can now, and again, folks, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. And don't worry, I've had people ask me this. Oh, I don't want to ask that question, or is that too easy or too simple? That's not the case. If you've got something that you want to know about how we would use this device to approach that, please put it in the chat bar, and we'll certainly get to it. I wanted to ask you, ladies, dealing with open wounds. Have you had much of an occasion to deal with an open wound, and what type of results have you seen, and how have you approached it?
I honestly have not had open wounds to work with, so I don't know if Shannon has or not.
I've had a few. I just recently, in the last few months, worked on a mare that put a post up through her up inside the front leg and just tore up that pectoral muscle and up inside there. They immediately felt like it caused pretty severe nerve damage, and really she went from a 3-year-old pretty good reining prospect to hopefully being a broodmare. And we actually, and honestly, I did not get to work on it very many times. I think I've only put about 4 treatments on that horse. In fact, it got the, now I can't remember the name of the infection, where it gets under the skin and the skin feels crunchy, and I can't remember the name of the infection. But anyhow, we worked on that horse only about, I want to say maybe 4 times. And when I was out there last week, she said she was cleared as sound, and they were going to start riding her again. So, what I got with that was the healing, of course. Knitting the wound itself seemed to help, but as more than that is that it was able to help those nerves to reconnect, calm down, get the muscle to be a more, get them to knit in a more fluid, really break down that scar tissue to where we had less damage done in there, long-term damage to where it was going to affect her career. I don't know yet if she's going to wind up being a big competitor again, but they really never even thought she'd be sound enough to go back to work. So they're putting her back to work, and we'll continue on it and see how far we get her.
That's excellent, and you're right on course there. So often what the therapy does is it allows a good smooth knitting, or just the improved blood flow and oxygenation will help reduce or hold off the buildup of scar tissue, and that's where a lot of further issues come from, is the scar tissue that develops around the joint or around the area of injury. And so if we can keep that at bay, we can help it, then the natural processes of the healing will just move right along in a comfortable, progressive, good fashion. So to that end, can we talk a little bit about feet? What kind of foot issues have you dealt with? Where do you go when you talk about navicular or the bursa or issues in the foot? Can you address that a little bit for us?
We deal with, at the horse shows, we deal with a lot of sore feet, and which is where we have found the Zoom and the Zoom box to be extremely beneficial. Being able to put each foot on there from around 3 minutes takes care, just immediately eases their whole body. If I've got one that is having navicular, I like to use the Zoom, and then I like to take my wand and butterfly around the foot. At a medium to low intensity until the inflammation comes out of that and they relax. We have found, the few that I have worked with, I have found that they have incredible success with that.
I would agree with that. The sore heels, I think, are a big deal. I have not, it's interesting, I have not been as comfortable with the Zoom box as Jody has. I've had a couple horses that love it. I tend to go back to the butterfly around the heel. Especially the heel around the front. I think, to me, I don't know if it just makes me feel better, but it I see a lot of results with that. The Zoom, I think, is incredibly valuable. I've had really good success with arthritic changes. Depends on the horse. I have had a couple horses that absolutely love that Zoom, and they just will stand on it forever. And others, I don't feel like they like it as much, and they're better for me if I go back to the butterfly. So I think as much as anything, it's to, you know, just pay attention to what seems to make them happy. They're, you know, the reaction, they chew and they yawn and they get all comfortable and their eyes closed and they just settle into it. And if you're not getting that result in a few minutes, you know, maybe, you know, don't just stick to it because that's what you should do. You know, come up with another way to get it done and see where you get the results from it.
Absolutely. We've had that situation when you talk about that. Some people get tremendous results with the Zoom paddle in the box, or as you said, Shannon, they'll use the butterfly behind the hoof or from the front of the hoof. There have been horses over the years when I was treating actively that we would take the large loop, put it on the ground, put the horse's foot in the center of the large loop. They feel nothing. You can turn it up quite a bit at that point, and you're not putting the signal like you do off the box or the butterfly so quickly and directly into the foot, so you can put more energy in by using the large loop just sitting on the ground, but just approach it from that standpoint. So, and again, here's the thing where each horse is different, and they'll respond differently to it, and that's the beautiful thing about the device is you can do it the way the horse likes it and the horse responds.
Right.
To that end, have you had much, and I can approach this as well, but have you had much experience with abscesses, and how do you approach an abscess?
Well, Jody's the lucky one with the abscesses. Every time I have an abscess, I seem to either just get it to dissolve or it wasn't an abscess. But she has had great success with abscesses, so she'll tell you about it.
Yeah, I have dealt with many of the abscesses. I absolutely, the Magna Wave can pull an abscess out and dry it up faster than the vets can ever believe it. I like to start by picking up the foot and doubling up the wand and laying it directly on the bottom of the hoof, as high as they will allow me to do it, so that I can see where the abscess is going to start to come out of. And then when you kind of see that, then you will move the butterfly over to the other side and where that is and try to get the most of it out of it. And then the last part of the basic protocol that I follow is once I have started to get that to drain, I will put their foot within the big loop as high of an intensity as they will allow me to do, and most of the time, by the time I'm finished, it is already draining.
That's amazing. And also I want to ask, Jody, when you say as high, when you have the butterfly or if you're using the Zoom box or paddle, how as high as allow you to go? I'm assuming if you're holding that hoof in your hand and you put that coil on there, that foot is basically bouncing in your hand when you turn it up. Correct.
And their foot is already sore with an abscess, so they will try to take it away from me. So if I can gradually, have it at a higher intensity, and I'd like to have it as high as I possibly can go, but if you start a little lower as the soreness starts to alleviate and it makes it easier on them, then they will allow me to turn it up quite a bit higher. So I'll almost sit on a stool and put their leg across mine so that I can support them and feel what it is that they're feeling.
That's an excellent description, and a stool is a great idea. Because there have been times I've been holding this foot, and you're doing it for a while, and I'm thinking my back's breaking. I'm going to have to treat myself. as soon as I'm finished with this horse. But to sit on a stool, lay their leg across your lap, and then treat them is an excellent idea. Thank you so much for sharing that. But as you approach this abscess and you get into it, I think your description was also perfect. Sometimes people feel like, okay, I'm going to use this coil, I'm going to put it on the foot, and I'm going to turn it up as high as it'll go right now. And that's not the deal, as you so eloquently described. Put it on the foot, do it low, let it start doing its job of helping the inflammation be resolved, which is going to ease the pain, and then begin to turn it up. They'll be a lot more comfortable, and you can get the energy into the area that you want. I think that's excellent. Thank you very much for sharing your technique there. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any other questions, please put them in the chat box, and we'll certainly try to answer them. We have a few more minutes. We're about 50 minutes at this point, and we like to keep it to within an hour, so it's an easy listen in the car or a couple trips in the car to listen or watch the program. So, with that, are there any areas, ladies, that you maybe think that you might want to share as far as how you've treated specific things, or what you would recommend maybe for something that we haven't covered at this point? We're doing a good job. A lot of things to how about the hock? The hock's an area that, and stifles. When I first got in with racehorses, it was funny. People always said, oh, this horse is having stifle issues, and I'd go treat the horse, and there wouldn't be anything going on in the stifle. No movement, everything nice and solid. Right. Yet we'd find that referred pain that you've talked about. So can you address a little bit how you deal with hocks and stifles?
Well, you know, I think hocks and stifles are interesting. The hock, I think, is probably the joint that takes the most beating. That's their main balance. That's the big deal. Stifles are an interesting issue. Honestly, I don't find as many stifle injuries as people a lot of times want to point to. Generally, if you work on that stifle, or you start at the stifle, you'll get movement out of it. But a lot of times, if you follow that up, the whorlbone area, which is basically the hinge in the side of the hip, where everything comes through there, all the muscles and tendons and everything from the back down goes through that whorlbone, and then it kind of goes forward to the stifle and then down to the hock. The whorlbone, low back-ish area, that's kind of a Z area, is really important to follow, because that whorlbone hip area really takes a big beating too. And so then what's interesting with a horse is that if they have a chronically painful area, sometimes they'll just get lame, but a lot of times they will basically figure out a way to work around whatever's hurting. So they don't stop moving forward, where we'll get painful and we'll just sit in a chair because we can't stand it anymore. They just keep going. That's how they don't have any reason not to. So their bodies will find a way to circumvent what's bothering them. And so, again, that's why we find it so valuable to follow the referrals, chase it all the way from one end to the other. So the hock, I think, is one that they get sore. And one of the things that kind of bothers me is that people say, I don't know why that horse would be sore, he's only 3. Well, depending on the breed and its job, some of those 3-year-olds have already been performing and working and running for a year to a year and a half, and the hock joint is just getting beat up. And the hock is one of the only joints that, if it's fused, is actually stronger than if it was not fused. So by working in that joint and it's very important that we keep the health of the hock joint vital, whether that means a lot of Magna Wave, which of course always helps, brings the inflammation down, helps get the blood flow through there. When we lose the fluid in that hock joint, there's no way for it to stop being painful until you replace the fluid somehow. So Magna Wave increases the life of that joint, and it helps the fluids and makes everything that much more comfortable. But we do have to be really careful, or really pay attention to how painful that hock joint is. I had one trainer ask me if the Magna Wave could take the place of hock injections. Now, everybody has their own opinion on hock injections, joint injections, whatever. I personally feel when they're valid, they're very important. And the fact is that I think the Magna Wave could take the place of it, but the amount of time that you'd have to spend on it is a little cost prohibitive and time prohibitive. So what the MagnaWave needs to do on those hock joints is increase the health, maintain the work that we're doing on it, and try to prevent the issues that come in there, the arthritis, the bone spurs, bone chips, by using that to keep it as healthy as possible and follow up with any kind of therapies, whether it's supplemental, ice, joint injections, anything that you use to help to increase the health of that. The MagnaWave is going to magnify whatever we're doing to those joints to a huge degree. It's going to help the investment that you've made, whatever it is, to last longer. The body's going to metabolize it better. The joints are going to be healthier longer. And by being using that MagnaWave on a regular basis, we are preventing things, again, like we said, arthritis, spurs, things like that, to where those joints are going to last longer and longer and longer.
Thank you very much. And to that end, the therapy, the pulsed magnetic therapy, will actually aid in the development of collagen and HA in the body. As the body depletes its HA, then this will help it not deplete, but help replace it quicker and help it continue to build up. But if you have to inject, this will at that point help the injection potentially last longer, because we help keep the inflammation out of the joint where you are injecting. They always say you can only use that needle in that joint so many times, and that so often does happen. Sometimes horses never have a problem, but sometimes you get an injection in there and bingo, you got a serious problem. So if we can keep, as she pointed out, as Shannon so well pointed out, if you can keep that joint healthy and keep it good and fluid, you're going to extend the usefulness and the life of that horse and its joints.
Well, we both personally own show horses, both trained them before, and now we own our own. And I personally am a believer in hock injections or joint injections when needed on a moderate basis, but I absolutely can testify myself that the MagnaWave increases the length of the usability of that tremendously, and we are not getting the return to the level of pain, because we're getting the health of that. We're increasing it so much to we get a more and more normal joint for a longer period of time, and the MagnaWave just increases that health, the fluid, the health of it, the inflammation, everything in those joints is just so much, it's dramatically improved, and the vet bills go down dramatically, which is
big
nice.
point that if you can improve vet bills. Here's a question that was asked: how soon after injections would you use the MagnaWave when you're talking about an injected joint or something?
If they have used steroids, I prefer to wait at least 24 hours. And then right after that 24-hour period, if you've ever had an injection yourself, you know that that area is very sore within 24 hours of that injection. So at that point, the medication has mainly gotten in there, and then you're able to finish putting it into the correct area of the joints. And at the same time, you take out the soreness that is created from putting in, from doing an injection. So it eases the pain, so it starts to work immediately. And at that point, then you're able to add to the longevity of that injection.
Great, thank you. And we have another question to that end. We're just getting close here on time. But Jessica asks, have you found it to be true when using the MagnaWave that it can increase or indeed help the growth of the hoof area, and how beneficial can that be? I can certainly answer that question, but ladies?
Oh, definitely. By having the correct blood flow in the feet, you are going to have healthier feet. They will grow much faster and stronger. So definitely, if you've got weak feet, short feet, it will definitely speed the growth and improve the strength of the hoof.
It said that using the MagnaWave on the feet can increase the growth by a third, as far as speed, by a third to a half, and could certainly increase the growth when that is necessary. Ladies, we're about out of time. Any additional thoughts that you'd like to share? I certainly want to thank you for being with us today.
We very much appreciate and have had a wonderful time being on the show.
Well, we're big believers in the MagnaWave and its therapies, and we're 100% behind using it and educating. So we appreciate the opportunity to be part of it, and it's been an interesting career change for both of us, and we have both enjoyed it to no end, and intend to keep going for a good long time.
Yeah.
There you go. So thank you very much again, ladies, for being with me. Shannon Poulafrone and Jody Murray from Arizona and Texas. Look them up online or in Facebook and connect with them if you wish. But it's very exciting having you with us. I really enjoyed your comments and your answers, and I think our audience did as well. So ladies and gentlemen, please join us next Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, for MagnaWave Wellness TV. Write this down. If you have any questions that you'd like for us to cover, any topics that you feel that we would be good to cover, send me an email at patziemer, Z-I-E-M-E-R, rhymes with Beamer, at magnawavepemf.com, and we'll certainly get to those subjects and questions that you may have. So ladies, thank you very much again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.